There is a specific kind of loneliness that only exists on a dark, empty highway past midnight. The headlights only show you 50 feet of the road ahead, leaving the rest to the pitch-black void. You think you are completely alone. But sometimes, the road has other plans. Welcome back to Lurking Horrors. Tonight we dive into two terrifying encounters from people who drove into the dark and realized they weren't alone. Lock your doors, roll up your windows, and let's begin. Story 1. The Passenger on Route 9. Our first story comes from a guy named Marcus. In the fall of 2021, Marcus was driving home from a late-shift construction job. It was 2:14 a.m., and he was taking Route 9, a notorious two-lane road cut straight through a dense Oregon forest. There were no streetlights, no houses, and his phone had absolutely zero signal. The rain was coming down so hard that his windshield wipers could barely keep up. As Marcus rounded a sharp bend, his headlights caught something standing on the muddy shoulder of the road. It was a man. He was standing perfectly still in the pouring rain, head tilted down, staring directly at the wet asphalt. He didn't have a jacket. He didn't even have shoes. Marcus felt a cold shiver hit his spine. Every survival instinct told him to hit the gas and ignore it. But thinking the man might have been in a terrible car wreck, Marcus slowed down. He rolled down his window just an inch and called out, "Hey man, do you need help?" The man didn't move. He didn't look up. But then, in a dry, raspy voice that sounded like dragging sandpaper, he whispered, "Unlock the door." Marcus froze. He looked closer through the rain. The man's clothes weren't just wet. They were stained with something dark, something that looked like dried blood. Terrified, Marcus slammed his foot on the gas pedal. The tires screeched as the car launched forward into the dark. In his rearview mirror, Marcus watched the man. He didn't chase the car. He just slowly lifted his head. Marcus swears to this day. The man had no eyes, just empty black sockets stretching into a wide, unnatural smile. For the next 10 miles, Marcus drove like a madman. He finally reached a brightly lit gas station. He parked right under the lights, his hands shaking violently on the steering wheel. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart. But as he looked up into his rearview mirror to check the back seat, his breath hitched. Written in the thick condensation on the inside of his back window were 4 freshly scratched words, "I'm already inside." Story 2. The Midnight Headlights. Our second story happened to a girl named Sarah, who was driving across Nevada at 3 a.m. The desert highway was dead silent. For over an hour, she hadn't seen a single car, until she noticed a pair of headlights in her rearview mirror. At first, the car was far away, but within minutes, it accelerated, riding dangerously close to her bumper. Sarah tapped her brakes to signal them to back off. Instead, the car turned on its high beams, blinding her completely through her mirrors. Sarah sped up, but the car stayed right behind her, matching her speed perfectly. Every time she changed lanes, the headlights followed. This went on for 20 agonizing miles. Sarah was panicking, looking for an exit, but there was nothing but empty desert. Suddenly, the car behind her began flashing its high beams rapidly. On, off, on, off. It wasn't a mistake. It looked like a frantic signal. Sarah honked her horn, terrified that they were trying to run her off the road. Finally, she saw a crowded rest stop ahead. She swerved into the parking lot and slammed on her brakes near the entrance. The mysterious car followed her in, stopping right behind her. An old man jumped out of the driver's seat holding a heavy tire iron. Sarah screamed, locking her doors, thinking this was the end. But the old man didn't run to her window. He ran straight to her back door, screaming at the top of his lungs, "Get out of the car! Get out now!" A second later, the back door of Sarah's own car burst open. A tall man in a black hoodie who had been hiding on her floorboard the entire night jumped out and ran into the dark desert. The old man looked at Sarah, pale as a ghost, and said, "Every time I flashed my lights, it was because that man was lifting a knife behind your seat." Story 3. The Cold Blanket. Our third story comes from a college student named Tyler. Last winter, Tyler was driving through the back roads of Ohio at around 1:30 a.m. The snow was falling heavily, turning the world into a blinding white sheet. The roads were completely unplowed, and his old sedan was sliding with every turn. Suddenly, his car's heater died. Within minutes, the temperature inside the vehicle dropped drastically. Tyler could see his own breath forming thick clouds of white mist in front of him. He shivered, pulling his jacket tighter, desperate to just make it back to his dorm. That's when he noticed something strange in his breath. Every time he exhaled, another cloud of mist appeared from the dark passenger seat next to him. Tyler slowly turned his head. The seat was empty. There was nobody there. He told himself it was just his imagination playing tricks on him due to the freezing cold. He forced his eyes back on the road, but then the temperature dropped even lower. It felt like ice water was being poured down his spine. And then he felt it, a freezing, heavy pressure pressing against his right shoulder. It felt exactly like a frozen, numb hand resting heavily on his body. Tyler gasped, staring straight ahead, refusing to look to his right. In the silence of the freezing car, right next to his ear, a soft, icy breath brushed against his skin, followed by a faint, childlike voice whispering, "Can you turn the heat back on? We are freezing." Tyler slammed his foot on the gas, fishtailing through the snow, and didn't stop until he hit the main highway lights. Story 4. The Camera in the Rear. Our final story for tonight was shared by a long-haul truck driver named David. David was driving an 18-wheeler across Texas on a completely isolated stretch of highway. It was 4 a.m., the dead zone of the night. To stay awake, David checked his side mirrors and the small monitor on his dashboard that showed the live camera feed from the very back of his massive trailer. The road behind him was pitch black, illuminated only by the red glow of his truck's taillights. As he glanced at the camera monitor, he saw something that made his blood run cold. A shape was moving on the roof of his trailer. David adjusted his mirrors, but he couldn't see the roof from his cabin. He looked back at the monitor. The camera quality was low and grainy, but he could clearly see a human silhouette. It was crawling on all fours, moving fast, flat against the top of the truck, like a giant insect. David hit the brakes hard, hoping to throw the intruder off. But the creature didn't slip. Instead, it reacted to the sudden brake by scrambling forward. It crawled toward the front of the trailer, right toward the roof of David's driving cabin. A loud metallic thud echoed directly above David's head. The roof of his cabin dented slightly downward. David was trapped inside the cabin, driving at 60 miles per hour in the middle of nowhere with something heavy pacing around right above his head. Then the scratching started. Long, sharp fingernails scraping against the metal roof, moving toward the windshield. David didn't look up. He blew his loud air horn continuously, praying for a police officer or another truck to appear. After 5 minutes of pure terror, the scratching suddenly stopped. When David finally pulled into a way station, the roof of his cabin was covered in deep, jagged gouges that tore right through the paint. If these stories made your blood run cold, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the Lurking Horrors. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss our weekly midnight drops. What would you do if you realized someone was already inside your car? Let me know in the comments below. Stay safe out there on the road. And remember, the dark is never truly empty. Good night.